I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. Get the fuck off!
I should probably add myself to the stream. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the OZone. Your boy Oz, live and in action. And I'll post the link up. I'll pin it to the top of the chat here shortly. The phone number is ready, but don't call yet. If there's any Christians, a couple announcements before we get this shit started. But first of all, everybody in the chat, what's up? How you feeling on this fine Tuesday evening? Tuesday evening. Let me pull up my little announcements. Well, let's just go in orders. I think I'm going to go in chronological order, but. We have the return of Vintage Explorer with Aunt Kathy starting tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So for those that are out of bed, awake, and functioning that early in the morning, you now have some new fresh material and content to check out. So again, tomorrow 12 p.m. Eastern time is the return of Vintage Explorer with Aunt Kathy, and Apostate Ashley will be producing that. And I believe most of it's going to be pre-recorded, but I love what they're doing because they're focusing on the atheist community and having people come on talk about hobbies and, you know, passions and things that they enjoy to do. And again, yes, normalizing atheism, but also humanizing the atheist. Because I think a lot of times these old theists, man, they just think the only thing we do is walk around and run around the YouTubes talking about there is no God. So I'm looking forward to that. And then that evening, tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. Eastern time, we have the next installment of Being Comfortable with the Uncomfortable, focusing on authenticity. What does that mean to us as individuals? And why is that important in our friendships, relationships, so on and so forth? So that's going to be a lot of badassery there. And I know we have the normal squad that helps us out, and we have two joining us. Little sis Biddy Buddha will be there, and that David guy, that David McDonald had a farm. That guy, he's going to be joining us. That thinks he can freestyle. Just ask Heathen Queen about his freestyle capabilities or lack thereof. And then last but not least, on the 16th, Drew, genetically modified skeptic, will be joining me for another edition of What's Your Story? And that one's going to be fun. I'm going to enjoy that. The conversation that I was able to have with Drew and also Dr. Josh and Seth Andrews at the Better Conference was probably the most impactful conversation or panel in my opinion, but that's me being very, very subjective and biased as fuck because I was asking a lot of questions that pertain to me and where I was at that time, and it helped me out significantly. So again, thanks everybody for Yep. Jena is the for all the old school basketball fans, you'll appreciate this. They called him Big Shot Rob, but Robert Ory was always in the clutch. Always in the clutch. I don't know how many daggers he put down, but hell yeah. What's up, Darren? First of all, what's up? Good to see you. But Drew's fucking awesome and be able to hang out and chat and talk. It was bad. It was badass. He's a good dude. Nick, for you or whomever is still wondering who the brains of this operation is, you've not watched enough and listened enough. It's not me. It's not me. But let me, I'm going to play a little music here. I'll still talk about it. I'm going to play a little music while I get the link pinned up. In the side chat. No. All right. Give me the link. No.
You just went and made things dirty. No. All you did was just desert me. No. You thought all of this would hurt me. No.
All right, the linky link is pinned, and let me get I don't need the banner with the number. The number's on the damn screen. Can't see it. That's a you problem. Yeah, where he said, tighten your anus. What he said, Nick. What he said. Look at my face, look at my eyes. They do not lie or disguise. I mean, you can call in if you want to, but you better be able to defend your atheism. You just went and made things dirty. No. All you did was just desert me. No. No. All of this would hurt me. No. Turn that down a little bit. All right. If there's any Christians, I posted this, well, quite a few places, but if you know anywhere you want to send it, any Christians want to talk about faith, I'm going to try to keep it on topic. One of my favorite things to talk about. We can chop it up talking about faith. You can join in here. Or the call-in number, I have everything set up and ready, 260-226-3880. Again, 260-226-3880. You get that, Nicholas Suter? 3880. I used to call him Troll. Nick's call-in show.
Oh, that's for the real apples. Yeah, man. You looking like the devil who created you.
You looking like the devil who created you.
Nice job, Katie.
All right, well, let's have some fun. We're waiting for somebody to join or call. Let's do a little I don't need all that. Nope. Don't need all that action. Let's do a while we're waiting. I don't know if I don't think I do that, but I have a couple times when I've got like super irritated with Christians, damn near deep throated my microphone, if that counts for anything. But no, while we're waiting on people, I know we're just getting started, people to join or call in. Let's just do a spontaneous ask Oz anything, which is a scary thought. Yeah, go ahead. Ask me anything. Doesn't mean I'll give you the answer you want, but no. Wow. I thought for sure there'd be a couple people like, oh, I can ask this dumbass anything. All right, dude. Yeah, the first time, was amazing. I had Nick. I can't remember who I was with. Had Nick. There's one or two other people, and I had him going. We had somebody just jumped in the back. Give me 1 second here. God damn it, where we go? Yeah, where's Josh when the 7-day guy comes? Deep Toe, the mic and the Song of Solomon, ASMR. No, but I feel like you may have enjoyed that, Aaron, had I done that. Question, can I have your hashtag tank top? You already have one. What's up, Carlita? And Oz, who's your favorite metal band? There's all these different ways that you can define metal, but when I think metal, being a hip-hop head, I would say either Korn or, I know they're not necessarily metal, but they're pretty aggressive as far as their writing style or whatever, but I'd say Rage Against the Machine and Korn are my top two. Oz, if you could be doing anything you want right now, what would it be? Oh man. Well, if we're talking about just my what? Well, my day-to-day life, I would love to have already had Jena moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and just have that done, in the bag, gone, done, over with. But if we're talking as far as career or that type of thing, I would love to travel and speak, and it be more along the lines of helping people with trauma, abuses and trauma, and navigating that, and finding the best possible ways, individually for us to heal and move past all that bullshit. Yay. And last thing I'll say, and I got two people in the back. If you've not watched, it's brand new. I binge watched the fuck out of it, but there's a brand new documentary on Netflix about the 1999 Woodstock. So not the one that some of y'all were here for back in '69, but the 09. I'm not even gonna say rendition because it was a fucking shit show. I remember I had a couple friends I went to high school and went to it, but yeah, man, when Korn came out, because they were like probably them and Limp Bizkit were the two top draws that particular year for that festival, and when that Korn intro came in, what is it? It's not Shoots and Ladders. Anyway, the title of the song's Miss Me, but it starts off with a little guitar riff. Ding, 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 ding. No, that's the bass riff. Ding, 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 ding. And the guitar's doing the, and then the drummer's on the ride cymbal, and then when Jonathan Davis comes out and he's like, does it, are you ready? And like that whole, you watch this ocean of like 200,000 people. Like it's fucking madness. It's fucking madness. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's worth your time. It's worth your time. Blind. Thank you, Shane. But we do have two people backstage. Let's get them on here so I don't have to keep waiting. And I anytime Nicholas $400 suitor shows up, I have to pay him to be here. So we have to keep this moving. So what's up, everybody? What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
What's up, Oz?
What's up,
How
Phil?
goes it?
What's up, Nick?
Same old. How you guys doing?
Fine, thanks. Good. Great.
Chilling. Nick, where's the fucking goddamn jacket?
Oh, I knew this was gonna come. No. I was. You know what? I'm too tired. The suit's taking a break for the night. The suit's taking a break. How you doing?
I'm good. Did you happen to see the Miami Vice pink jacket I wore as a shout out to Nick last night?
I saw it. I didn't realize it was a shout out to me, but I am humbled and honored. And Phil, I think this is the first time I've been on a stream with you, so a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you too, Nick. And Oz.
Yep, absolutely. Phil, I saw you. I think we were briefly on screen together at one of Neil's shows.
Yes,
yeah,
correct. Yeah,
I had to dip out that night, but no, good to have.
Thank you.
So obviously, if any Christians jump in or call in, they have their priority. But thanks for jumping in because it's weird just talking to myself on here. So I appreciate the company.
I understand.
That's why I said it in the chat. I was like, just ask questions because that I do as far as satire and what do they call it? I just lost the term, but I have no problem making fun of myself. Self-deprecation. That's what I was looking for. So if people are asking me questions that are silly, I can run with that. But we did have a very important question here that I want to answer before we can talk about. We can talk about faith. But Shane, for whatever reason, wants to know if I wear boxers or briefs. And Shane, I will further blow your mind. I'm 100%.
Don't say what I think you're gonna say. Don't say what I think you're gonna say. I fucking know it.
All day, every day, Shane. So I hope when you close your eyes and you go to bed and dream tonight.
I'm not sleeping for weeks after that revelation.
I hope you have great dreams tonight, sir.
Not that anyone asked, but $600 briefs are boxers here. $600 boxers. Not that anyone asked, but yeah.
No, Brief here.
Nick is so bougie. Nick is so bougie. There's only one wear. He wears them one time, then he auctions them off.
Oh,
Wow.
yep. Auction them for charity. Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It's the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Who knew that boxers could be? But hey, if it works, whatever floats your boat.
Hell yeah. Jenna's quoting some posties. Versace boxers on my dick. Budweiser running through my piss. Anyway, anyhow. So faith is the topic tonight, and familiar with Tang. Yes, Tang, but also me being a former Christian, that word to me being introduced essentially by Paul is the key word in the greatest MLM, multi-level marketing empire ever established, and that is not just Christianity, but this Paulinism, the following of this word faith. So our kind of moniker here, the little hashtag. Well, here I'll bring it up because it's literally one of our slogans is faith is bullshit.
Definitely
is bullshit. So
definitely.
Before I dig in, what are kind of when you guys think about faith, and especially when it's used as from the theist, like it's used as an actual argument that faith is a good reason or is a good pathway to find true things. Do you think they're as crazy as I do?
I do think they're crazy because faith can be used for anything that isn't even reasonable or good. So when I hear them make that statement, this is what I usually think. I know it's I've heard this before from someone that said faith is the reason someone gives when they don't have good evidence for their claim. And I keep telling them that. So faith is bullshit, straight out.
Yeah, hold on. I got yep. Soundbite go. Where'd my goddamn Nick's fucking with my board?
How?
Definitely. I realized that I realized that a while back, and even up to now continues to be. I was once a Christian, and I know it is. I started in deconstruction to look for evidence. I wanted evidence, not just faith.
So Phil, are you a former believer? Are you a
yes, former believer?
Okay, what
Fundamentalist, Wesleyan holiness, then gradually moved away.
Talking
then Anglican and although they don't hold to, they're not Pentecostal, but I have been exposed to different denominations, Pentecostal and so on. So I have spoken in tongues too. But I was a member of the Wesleyan Holiness Church, and then as I started deconstructing, looking at things differently, I moved away from that, went to Anglican, and then gradually moved away. I deconverted in 2016 completely. Yeah. So I realized faith does not work because before we continue, why did I use also the outsider's test for faith? I didn't know it as that time, but
right.
I said, how can you distinguish between faith for Christianity, faith for Muslim, faith for Hindu? All of them claim to have faith. A lot of them claim to have prophecies that come true. A lot of them claim to have miracles that come true. What methodology can you use to distinguish between them? There's none. Yeah, so what makes mine better than yours? That's how I saw it.
Yeah, when I remember I was not this apartment, but the other apartment I had in downtown. So I was going through that deconstruction process and just trying to trying to tear it all down to see if anything's still true, you know. And the first time I heard Anthony Magnabosco, which at that time I didn't even know there was a atheist like YouTube thing or community. I just thought it was this random dude that I found online that's asking these great questions, right? And I remember that one of the first times I heard him use the outsider's test of faith, I was like, I was like, fuck me. Me.
Yeah.
They're saying the same shit I am.
Correct.
So what? And if he were to ask me that, I would have looked like a dumbass on the camera because I would have stared at him like, fuck, I don't know. Because mom and dad told me so.
You know, but I heard that bit of John Loftus. John Loftus is he used that, and that's when they heard that term. He said when he started describing, he said, but this is the same method I use to determine that Christianity is bullshit, that all the religions are bullshit. Full stop. And there's no God. They can't demonstrate there's any God. So
yeah, and Darren, you're absolutely right. And shout out RIP to the GOAT called faith.
Yeah.
Not
knowledge. Nope.
Amen.
Hey, fucking. Yep, I'm a golf.
Isn't knowledge, and not only that, but even when it looked at the Hebrews 11, 11:1, yeah. Faith is the evidence, is the substance of things for the evidence of things not seen. How could faith be any evidence? Faith is not any evidence.
Oh, that's one of my favorite. In this
fact.
In this particular conversation, I love going to the Bible's definition because it's even weaker than the dictionaries.
Yeah.
It
is.
Yeah, if we go to the Hebrews 11:1 definition, think about how irrational these two sentences or these statements are. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things. Hold on, it gets better. Not seen. What?
What the fuck?
What?
It's just nonsensical.
You guys talk. It'll take me 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab because I'm currently reading John's book, so I'm gonna grab that and put it on screen for people. So you guys talk. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Well,
but,
yes.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead. Nick.
Oh no, I was going to point out. No, it makes perfect sense to me. I think it encapsulates faith pretty well, at least the way Jesus talked about faith, and I think too. I always find it irksome. I suspect Oz knew where I'd land on the faith issue because I noticed he bifurcated the faith question into faith in general, and then faith how it's used in the church. Because I do think. While I'm not pleased with the notion, I think faith is an inexorable part of human life on some level or another. I think the church deliberately weaponizes that. But that notwithstanding, that what I like about, when people say, well, no, faith in this case doesn't mean belief without knowledge. It means trust based on evidence. And I'm sitting there going, that is a definition of faith. But Jesus explicitly says that's not the definition you should use. When he's talking to Thomas, he says, blessed are those who believe without having seen. And he really makes that distinction. Yeah. So I have a very hard time with people who make the argument that the Bible is, because Jesus was pretty clear on what he called faith in the Bible,
because they're trying to sidestep. I realize that they're trying to sidestep. They try to confuse, and they know, and a lot of them know, it is not just trust. It is what Hebrews 11:1 says, and what Jesus will have said faith is, and it's like a sidestep, a switch in the goalpost. When they do that, when you confront them, they say, "Oh, I mean trust." Oh, it's like you're sitting on a chair and you trust by. I have evidence that chairs hold me up.
Well,
you don't have no evidence.
That's still poor methodology, though, because why are you trusting anything within this claim? Because they're there aren't good reasons to trust, right?
Correct.
There's nothing that, you know, because they love to say, well, I apply faith in this God the same way I do, which this blows my mind when I hear it, the same way I do when I sit in this chair.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We can probably demonstrate that you've sat in that chair a 1,000 times.
Yes.
And we know the chair is there. It's not going to fall apart. The legs
Correct.
are going to fall to the floor. We can
Correct.
demonstrate that, yes, if you want to apply faith that way or trust that way, then yeah, that's cool. But that still doesn't apply to the God claim.
God claim. No.
It's not testable.
And one of the evidences, quote unquote, I put that in quotes, evidences, they love to use anecdotal evidence. And I said to them, anecdotal evidence for an invisible creature cannot cannot work as evidence for something that's invisible.
Well, it certainly doesn't. It certainly is not the same as saying I am sitting in this chair. Those are two very
Correct,
different
and
kinds
it's
of claims. They're
two
just. I'm
different
sorry, but
kinds of claim.
but
Because yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Well, no, what concerns me though is they're gaslighting, but they're not gaslighting the person they're talking to. They're gaslighting themselves. They actually have found a way to square that circle, and that's probably in my view the scariest part of religion. I'd seen Oz talking at one point about how he had felt lied to, but he realized that the people who had been telling him these lies bought them themselves, and it's that's kind of the scariest part is the genuine desire to twist reality to make it so that it suits what you need, which I do get. I think we do have some strong desire for metaphysical belief, but it's amazing what we are willing to do to try. I mean, we have a lot of desires that aren't healthy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say it's a good, but we clearly have it. I mean, there's a reason why cultures invent religions, and it's so strong. We will in our own heads, we will lie to ourselves.
It's lying to yourself.
And Nick, I think if I can piggyback on that, and then we have a good question for us, or two now. Let me star these and save them so I don't miss them. But that's what now being as far removed as I am breaks my heart, because I once shared that position, and I wish I could remember who I heard say this on a stream the other day, because I want to give them credit, and I can't remember who I heard say it. But if whoever that is, if you hear this, put it in the comments. If you hear this, see this, whatever, because I want you to get the credit for it. But they said that sadly, by using the word faith and all the different ways you can apply this word to the theology and to the doctrine, it literally is a Band-Aid upon Band-Aid upon Band-Aid doctrine and theology. Because no matter what, if we find a contradiction, or if we find a flaw, or if we find, well, there's another way with theologically or doctrinally that we can cover that blemish up and not actually have to address the wound, so to speak. We just put a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid on a Band-Aid. And I was like, holy shit, like that is the most kindergarten, first grade level that we can break it down to. And that's literally what we hear and see is, well, okay, yeah, that, but what about this? Well, no, we're not addressing the wound. We're not addressing the flaw, which is problematic. We need to address that. So we can come back to that in a second. But what you were saying, Nick, totally reminded me of that. And again, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, if you saw or heard the same stream too, please, whoever said that, I want them to get the credit, because I thought that was awesome. But Jena asks, so how would each of you respond to atheists when they say, well, atheists have faith in things? You are also, Nick, I'll let you start.
I'd say, yeah, absolutely, of course, obviously. So what? the reality is, I think when if you decide you really want to sit down and take a look at how we process truth and how we process the world around us, you're always going to have to make some assumptions. You're always going to have to make some guesses, and that's the way it is. And if somebody sits here and says you can only function in the world based on things that can be proven, I've got news for you. You can't really actually prove anything. We've got degrees of certainty, and that's it. So what I say is, so you're absolutely right, and that's a very valid complaint. But I don't believe, and I'm willing to have this tested, but I don't believe I have any faith-based beliefs that I am not willing to challenge. I don't have any where I'm not willing to have somebody come up to me and say, there is a reason for this. And any belief that I do have that hurts other people, even incidentally or accidentally, I question. I don't just leave it, because I cannot leave it to something where there's no, I have to sit there and I have to break it down. And if I'm told I can't question it, if I'm told I'm hurting more people or hurting God, for lack of, if that's what I'm told, then I start to get very, very concerned, because I have to believe if there is a God, he gave me the ability to question things so that I don't hurt people. And I refuse to accept any human being short of God himself coming down and telling me he didn't want me to use that ability to question my beliefs, including the ones I really can't support, so long as there's a possibility I'm hurting others with them. That's my answer.
My answer, normally we'll ask them, okay, what do you mean by the term faith, first of all, to get a definition. I have to say faith, trust in things. I say, yeah, as Nick said, trust things, but I have good evidence that usually for those things, I can put some trust in those things. And also, my faith is not a dogmatic faith where I don't question stuff. I have to question things I believe, and if, as Nick said, it's going to hurt someone, then they realize, no, this is not good, regardless of whether they believe a God said to do the opposite, to do that thing which will hurt that person. Right, because I tend to think humanistically. Even when I was a Christian, I think I was more thinking humanistically, and I gradually realized the Bible doesn't cater to the well-being of human beings, right? So that's how I will approach that.
Yep. No, I agree. Give me 1 second. I wanted to throw a couple of these comments up here. And I like that, Shane. I asked them if they're admitting faith is a good thing, or that I have a good reason to be an atheist. I think that's and kind of reset. If faith is a good thing and atheism is a result of faith, then I have faith in atheism. I have good reason to be an atheist. Yeah, and that's all. That's like turning their argument of faith upside down against them, you know. And, so I do enjoy that, because
that's a good argument.
Yeah, I do enjoy a little snark, and I don't think it's snarky in a good way, because it's the maybe dare we say a reductio, you know, of taking one extreme and going to the other. But real quick before I answer Jena's question, before I forget, and I'm sick of it laying in my lap, right here, go buy this shit.
Yeah,
John Loftus.
Yeah,
he hooked me up at the Better Conference. He was like, "Here, check."
Yeah,
and again, before I even knew what this was, or I didn't even know it was a goddamn book. Right?
Neither did I.
And now I'm like, oh, that fucked my whole shit up, man. Shit up. So go get it again, John Loftus, and I will say he's a Fort Waynian as well, and I are trying to, or I'm trying to schedule time with him just to get lunch or drinks or whatever. And the funny thing is, I'm going off a complete rabbit trail here, but he does and I didn't know this because I typically don't work Wednesday nights at the. I work full time at a comedy club in the evenings. Tonight's one of my nights off, and he's been doing open mics, and been working on his own little stand up, little project, side hustle, whatever. And he told me, I was like, well, where do you go? He was like, Summit City Comedy Club. I was like, there's no way. I bartend there. I work full. I've never seen you. He was like, well, I go on Wednesdays. I was like, that's why I've never seen you. I don't work Wednesdays. So, John's a great guy, but yeah, the outsiders faith, everybody, atheist, skeptic, Christian, agnostic, whatever, buy that shit. Just read it. But for my answer to this, how would each of you respond to a theist when they say, well, atheists have faith in things? Well, I think we have to come to an agreement on terms. And when you say faith, I appreciate I do appreciate Nick being straight to the point. Like, yeah, I do. So what? I do appreciate that. But I think because when it comes to the word faith, I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy being an antagonist, because they use this word in so many different ways to loops that I want you to nail this down for me. I want to hear you tell me what exactly you think faith means and how we apply it to our day-to-day lives. So I'm gonna share a screen real quick. So first I'm gonna start with the dictionary term, or not term, sorry, dictionary definition. So we have, let me get to this. So faith, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Or the number 2 definition, strong belief in God or in the doctrines of a religion based on spiritual apprehension rather than proof. That's the dictionary. Okay, so let me get rid of that. Now let me pull up the that ancient text that we swear that God wrote this shit, right? Hebrews 11:1. Now faith, this is the NIV. Now faith is confidence in what we hope for, and assurance about what we do not see. That sounds like an MLM pitch to me. That you trust the process, trust the system, trust the process, trust the system. But guess what? If we take that and then we take a 20,000-30,000 foot view on Jesus, I believe Jesus is a myth. I believe it's all made up. But let's say that he exists in the things that the Bible says that he said were actually uttered, that he would return, in that generation. Jesus fucked up the word faith. Jesus fucked up, because here's where it gets fucked up. So when we use the word hope, that we have confidence in this hope, right? This is according to the text. Guess what else the Bible says about hope in a negative light? The Bible says that hope deferred makes the heart sick. Makes the heart sick. So Mr. Jesus guy, you've been deferring hope for a long time, motherfucker. For a long,
very long time.
So now, and I don't want to get into morality discussions on that, because that's not even my forte. As Dr. Josh would say, that is not my area of expertise. But what I do know, is hurting people, making people, setting people up, think that you're going to do something and then you never do it, hurts people. It harms people. It does damage. So the word faith, when you start kind of navigating the scripture and how it applies to Hebrews 11:1, Jesus Christ himself, if he ever did exist, he already fucked it all up.
Mm-hmm.
He already crushed all this.
Big time.
He crushed all this hope. Because how many people have said in every generation, and Nick's been around, he's been on this planet for a long time.
Well, actually, I have a secret, Oz. I am the wandering Jew. I've been around since the I've been around for 2,000 years. I am the wandering Jew. Jesus said that he would not come back until all of his disciples are dead. There is one Jew who is still alive and has been wandering the earth this whole time. That's why Jesus can't come back. I confess.
Whoa.
I feel like if that was real, Nick, God would have just swallowed Nick up. We would have just been staring at a empty $4,000 leather chair.
Yeah, the chair will still be there. The suit, you'll still see the suit. It'll be draped on the chair. But
we did have another.
But Oz,
yeah.
In the Revelations, Jesus said, well, as soon as it was Jesus said he's coming back soon. But before you answer, I have heard a pastor say that when Jesus say he's coming back soon, it means he's on his way. That it actually means he's on his way. He was on his way very, very, very long. He had a hard time coming. He had a hard time coming.
He's walking. Do you have any idea, Phil? Do you have any idea the distance between heaven to try to walk that, and you're judging this guy? Really? There wasn't a donkey. I don't believe you. The kind of
he's like years away, probably. Then like years away.
I mean, is the motherfucker riding on the back of a caterpillar or something? I mean, what are we doing? What do you mean you're on your way?
It's that scene. It's that scene from Superman, the like Quest for Peace or whatever, when he's like, I could fly or. No, I'm going to walk. Yeah. Fly or walk to Earth. Am I just going to teleport there, or am I going to? You know what? I think I'll walk. They can wait 2,000 years. I will walk to Earth.
Listen, he has a problem. Okay, when he says he's coming, or he's on his way, he's coming. He has a sexual problem.
I was wondering if that's where you were going.
I thought Jesus was a virgin. I thought Jesus was a virgin. And now I'm super confused. Now I'm lost. But Pat made a comment a little bit ago, and this is dead on. Modern Christians are embracing a redefined faith in order to resist acceptance of the religious tradition as one founded upon unmitigated credulity in an age of science and rational thought. And for that, I will say bingo is his name-o, and that deserves a drink. Laid back. Thank you, Pat. No, that is deadly accurate, and I apologize if there's anything else that I missed in the chat. I was trying to keep those questions up, but if anybody wants to join, you're more than welcome to. The link is at the top, or the phone number is down the right bottom hand corner, 260-226-3880. And I've already let these two gentlemen know if there's any Christians that want to come in and talk. You have priority. You have the floor, and we talk our shit and we shoot the shit when it's a bunch of skeptics, atheists, whatever on here. But if any Christians want to jump in, we will keep it respectful, and there's not going to be any attacking or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that. But love to have you jump on, and we just want to talk about the word faith. Probably my favorite. Now a former charismatic, evangelical, non-denominational, something Christian. That word faith, I think is, it is the root of the greatest multi-level marketing scheme ever constructed, but I'm willing to be proven wrong that I'm absolutely incorrect in that, but all the evidence points that way, because Paul is like the linchpin, for that. And if you even think about Paul's conversion experience, nobody else saw it. Nobody else witnessed it. Nobody else was around. It was him on this lonely road, Paul on this lonely road, and all of these things happened, and people just bought it, and they said yes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this Christian killer, this Christian slaying man, is now one of our apostles, one of our one of our mouthpieces, and there's no investigation in that. There's no skepticism there.
And truth be told, I can prove that Oz has an open mind with this. If Oz had no heart, he wouldn't have been a Christian in the first place. And if he wasn't willing to examine his own beliefs, he wouldn't have become an atheist. So he's willing to go back if you can demonstrate it. That's a larger if than most Christians seem to think it is. But the fact that he's here and got himself here from where he used to be should be pretty strong evidence that he'll listen to arguments against what he holds most dear, because he's done it before.
Yeah, and I'm also just going through the chat, and I see there's a couple the names that I'm familiar with that are believers, and by all means, if you come in and chat, please do. And if you're more comfortable with it being one-on-one, I know Phil and Nick will have no problem if I and we talk that way. I don't want anybody to feel like they're getting teamed up on or getting so I have no problem putting them backstage until until we get through a bulk of the conversation. We can bring it back in, kind of open dialogue, kind of a round table conversation. But yeah, because I think there's a time and place for philosophy and conversations and the arguments around origins and the metaphysics and the physics and all that. But at the end of the day, your average person every day that's a believer, your lay person Christian, they're not taught any of that. They if they do have a grasp on that, it's very light, right? And that doesn't mean they're dumb. It doesn't mean anything. It's just that the pastors don't teach that shit. Churches
probably for good reason.
Yeah, for good reason.
Churches do not embrace that conversation whatsoever. So it's nothing against the individual, but it is problematic as far as the organization that we call church, especially in America, that we call church, because it is, unfortunately, for most, not all, for most, it is, well, pastor said so, or youth pastor said so, or mom and dad said so. And that's where it's problematic, because then once you start to venture outside of that, and there's this whole other world that has more of a what's the word I want, instead of this tunnel vision, it's more of a panoramic view of the world rather than just this singular lens or this tunnel vision. It's like, holy shit, man, holy shit. Now, and I know that was my approach. I won't speak for anybody else. It was like, okay, I have to, and I referred to this earlier, I have to now break all of this down, and I have to deconstruct all of this and see, is there anything that's going to be left standing? And unfortunately, because I would love for it to be true. I would love for it to be true. I spent 30 plus years of my life believing in this thing, right? I would love for it to be true, but there was nothing left standing. Like, it all fell apart. And the reason I say all that very long-windedly, I might add, is it's all, it all hinges on that word faith. Because and Anna, what's up? Good to see you. It's been a while since we saw you on here, but welcome as always. And Anna's discussing in the side chat the so what is differences between faith and belief. And I can understand because she did, I want to make sure I highlight this. Anna did say further up in the chat that she thinks that the well, let me pull it up. So I don't want to misquote. I want to be fair in representing.
If there's a pause anyway, I did want to say to piggyback on what Pat had said. I think Pat's absolutely correct, and I think the other thing that's a tactic is the equivocation, is the changing of the faith, but not just over time. That's what he was talking about, and that's an extraordinarily serious problem. But during a conversation, so one of the things that I will often do if I'm going to engage at any significant level with a theist is ask, I'll say define faith, but I'll let them use any definition they want. I do not care what definition they use. I don't care. It doesn't matter. My suspicion is it doesn't matter to anyone else on this dais. It doesn't matter what definition they use. What matters is that the definition doesn't change, because that's how they get it in through the back door. They use it as faith is sort of the MLK one, which is faith is believing, knowing that there's a top of the step, knowing there's a top of the steps when you can't see the end of the staircase. Okay, that's one thing, but that's not what Jesus said to doubting Thomas. Those are two very different things. Use either definition. It's great. I don't like it when atheists tell me what an atheist is. You don't get to define me, and you don't get to define how I'm using my language, but I don't get to define how you're using it either. I don't. Use it any way you like. I want you to. But I will say one thing. You can't change the definition during the discussion. Find a different word, maybe have faith and then blind faith and or some other or use a different, that's great. And we'll settle on different words. Anyone you want, don't change it.
And Nick, that's why I said that for me, it's pinning down that we have to pin down the terms.
Yep.
Because what
right,
like what you just said, we can't get happy feet then. You don't get to you don't get to get feet and start dancing around.
Correct.
Now you don't like where the word faith is taking us, right?
Yeah.
Either faith is faith, or it's not, and that's why I love to pin that down. But I do want to address it because this is, even though it's in the side chat, these are important points, and I think I think what's being said so far is fair, and we can kind of discuss it as well here. But I think they talking about faith. I think they teach it wrong because they so badly want to believe that just believing hard enough is going to change things in the natural realm. And hold on, don't comment yet. I don't think faith and belief are the same things. I think faith should be taught as that definition from the dictionary on a Google search: complete confidence or trust in something or someone. And then there was one more.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. There is a high-pitched squealing that almost sounds like a hamster wheel, and I suspect everyone can hear it in the live chat. So if you can't hear it, maybe you're the cause of it. But I'm certainly hearing it on. Don't know if it's
live chat. Let me see if it's my overhead fan.
Yeah, it's definitely not on my end.
Hold on.
Mary, well, her and Jenna were having a conversation before, but I don't think faith and belief are the same. And I don't think the Bible instructs that they are the same thing. And I'll just start there so my ADHD brain doesn't forget, and I'll let you guys chime in.
I'm sorry. Oh.
I would say that, and I agree that yes, faith and belief can be categorized in their own camps. Like there's faith and there's the belief. The belief is what we want to know whether it's true or not. Right. We want to believe more true things than not.
Right.
The faith is the method, the methodology being utilized or being practiced to arrive at said belief. The question is faith a reliable method? Is it a reliable pathway to bring us to more true things than not? And I think if we really dissect it and we look at it as whether we apply the complete trust in someone or something. If we just do it based on that without gathering, going through what is probable, what is likely, and testing testing the claims, whether it's taken through a scientific method or checking for reliability. Can we duplicate? Can we replicate? I think that's the difference that we're looking for. So yes, they are separate, they are different, but one is where we want to be. Is this are we believing in true things, and how reliable is our vehicle? That's how I want to say it. How reliable is our vehicle? and I do not see. I view faith as a 1960s Oldsmobile that's been sitting in a junkyard, flat tires, and it's not going to get us anywhere. Faith is not going to get us anywhere other than more hands in the air, again, hoping that what we're believing is true, rather than having a good reason and a good method to understand why a thing may be true or not. But you guys go ahead.
Yeah, I think you aptly describe it with your analogy, that analogy really well. Because right, the belief I call is also the claim, somewhat equated with the claim that they make. And the faith, as you said, is what they will use as a method to try to support the claim. And the faith, as I said, they take faith as the quote-unquote evidence for this. But faith, as you said, is like an old Oldsmobile 1960 wheels flat, or there's rust and whatever, and the vehicle is going nowhere. It's not taking them, it's not supporting the claim that they're trying to make. There's no evidence. I see it like that.
And real quick, Phil, I agree with Maya said in the chat, because when you muted, it went away. It sounds like somebody's on a swing or
like a hamster wheel. Or just what you may want to just do is just mute when you're not talking. I think when you're talking, the sound of your talking covers it, so it's not.
It might be fine outside. Okay, because it turned off. All right.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Oz.
Much better.
What before, because Anna's made another comment on here which we can address, but Nick, I want if there's anything that you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, okay. So I'm often asked, do I have faith in my wife? And I say, yes, absolutely, I have faith in my wife. And they say, well, okay, that's what we're talking about. Well, sometimes that's what you're talking about. Sometimes that's not. I could say I have faith in my wife, but I have evidence for that. I've known her for 25, 26 years. We've dated. We now have kids. We've gone through the whole thing. So yes, you can call that faith. I didn't meet her in a bar and say, hi, my name is Nick. You look pretty, you're intelligent, you look reasonably disease-free. Let's get married. Just I have faith. I have faith that we are supposed to be together. Let's get married. I didn't do that, but that is also faith. It's just two different things. And what the Bible does is it uses those interchangeably when they're very, very different things. And they're close enough that they can overlap. And belief, faith, trust, you do a diagram of these things with a little scatter plot. There's going to be a lot of overlap. But that's kind of where, and what I've noticed is when you ask questions that ministers can't answer, and we all have questions, scientists have questions that they can't answer too, but there's a way that they deal with things that they can't answer, and it's not to try to shut down the discussion. And what I've noticed is that ministers, people who represent the organization of the church, have a tendency to start talking about one kind of faith, and in a very reasonable way. It makes a lot of sense. And then before you know it, they start talking again about the doubting Thomas, Jesus kind of faith. And if you're not paying attention, you don't realize the word is now being used in two different ways. And faith and belief can be the same thing. So can faith and trust. It really depends on how you choose to use the words. And I think Oz is absolutely right. Make sure you define them up front. And we just agreed. And as long as we're, I think her definitions are great. I think they're beautiful definitions. As long as they don't change during a conversation, perfect. More power to you.
Yeah. And that is what's problematic with, especially when we're talking about an ancient text that's been passed down over generations, is we don't know how they intended faith to be used, right? These are all assumptions, and then you have more humans and more humans and more humans coming along and applying what they think should be attributed to this word that we call faith, which again, if you're a modern day Christian, especially here in America, Christianity hinges on that word. It hinges on that word. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. If you believe in your heart and speak with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, you are saved. You are blessed because you believe without seeing. Like all of that, it hinges on that. So again, I always want to be fair when we're doing this. And Anna, I appreciate even the side chat your points and your comments. Thank you. She said she looked it up. So and just for everybody else, so we can put it on screen. Dictionary definition: belief, an acceptance that a statement is true or that something exists. Trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something. Now, you could argue that the second part of that definition is even tying faith and belief together. You could, and like Nick said, I think depending on whom you're speaking with, you may be able to do that. But I think more times than not, if we're going to go through this, I guess from a more systematic approach, and we're going to get do street epistemology or talk about the epistemology behind this and why do you believe what you believe, why are you convinced? So there's the belief that Yahweh exists. That's the belief, right? Faith, in this conversation, faith would be that vehicle that parks us in that garage, right? Because we don't have any evidence for it, right? We have nothing that can be taken through a scientific method. Again, nothing that's that we can duplicate, replicate. There is no natural way to observe that this God exists. The only thing that we do have is faith. So that left alone by itself, that would be the vehicle that parks us in the garage of belief. So what I'm asking, I've been asking for, however many years now that I've been away from faith and belief in a religion is why, whether we use the dictionary definition or the Hebrews 11:1 definition, why would faith, that word, ever be a reliable method, a reliable vehicle to help us to arrive to more true things, to help us believe in more true things than not? Because Phil alluded to it earlier. We could have faith in like some really crazy shit. I mean, look how many cults there's been in our world, and how many people have lost their lives because of faith in these beliefs, right? And they were bad ideas and they were bad beliefs, but they claimed, again, going back to the outsider's test of faith, they had the same faith. They proclaimed and preached the same faith in their religion or cult or their God or their deity. They proclaimed and preached the same conviction, the same passion, the same level of faith as I'm just for conversation's sake, the American Christian does. Why is one more valid than the other? That's when it gets messy. That's when it gets messy, because that word faith can apply to every single thing that we can conjure up.
All right. The as you just said, right. So how can they show that their faith, their vehicle they're using is different to the one that is in another place that's being used for another belief, etc.? They can't. And basically, when you look at it, they're just using the same vehicle. Every one of them are using the same vehicle, basically, for their particular belief. And as you know, in Christianity, we can do, because we are familiar with Christianity, there are many different denominations, and each denomination holds some difference in a belief to some of the other denominations. Yet they say they have faith, they're applying faith. This is the case.
Well, and if you can also flip this the other way. We know that we as human beings, we have a instinct to create religions. For the most part, basically just about every single culture in human history, even the ones that have never come into contact with others, have invented gods and have invented religions and have believed in, whether it's casting but the bones of dead birds or to divine. We've all done it. This is just something, for some reason, and we actually do understand to some extent why, but this is something that we have a tendency to do. So let's take a look at the religion of Christianity and ask for a second. Let's assume it was fake. What would we expect to see if it was fake? Well, if it was fake, we'd expect that you would have a whole bunch of different versions of it and different ideas about it cobbled together into texts that people are going to interpret and then argue over and reinterpret. And that since it is fake, it's not really going to comport well with the actual universe as it is. So as we learn new things, you're going to have to reinterpret it. And if it's popular enough and if it continues enough, people are going to start to argue and take very seriously individual, well, did God mean good works or good works and belief? And then they're going to split and argue. And because it's fake, God's never going to come down and settle this. And we're not going to see any new contributions to it that can be proven. So that's what you would expect to see if it was fake. So now the question is, what do we see when we look at religion? And this doesn't prove it's fake, but the only way to believe it, once you understand that, is to have faith. That's why you have to have it.
Hope. You're hoping.
And I'm gonna dominate for 1 second into, because this was something that you said that is so important, Oz, and so few. You said you wish it was true, and somebody quoted me earlier, because I've said this before, and I get into a lot of arguments with other atheists about this, which is I understand why people want it to be true. I want it to be true. People say, well, why would you want a God that dominates you? And no, nobody believes in a God that is going to harm them. Nobody does that. That's why there's so many sects of Christianity. If your God is going to harm you and doesn't comport with your values, you switch and become a Protestant or a Methodist or whatever. So no Christian believes that their God dislikes them. They'll find a God that likes them. Who wouldn't want that? I want that. And sometimes atheists, I think there are a lot of atheists who genuinely can't fathom, especially people who are born atheist, can't fathom or raised atheist, cannot fathom why you would want this. If you've had it, if you lived it, if you believed you will be reunited with your kids, with your family, with everyone you've ever loved, that there's no way that you will be separated from them in a permanent sense. Who wouldn't want that? Yeah. And that's why I'm a little careful with who I talk to about this, because it's not my job to go around crushing the hopes and dreams of other people. It is my moral obligation to stop people who are hurting others. And religion does a tremendous amount of that. But boy, do I get it. I still, that's why when you just said, anyways, what I think what you said was very powerful about you wish it were true. I wish more atheists would admit that. I think some genuinely don't. But I think more secretly do when they think that there's something wrong with admitting it. But courage is seeking the truth for the most part at all costs, and there is value to that. I wish it were true too, and but that notwithstanding, yeah, hope. It's that hope that I think can blind us when we're seeing it. Yeah, I hope. Oz, that's it. You got it.
No, I love you said that, and I'm with you, Nick. I wish more, especially former theists that are now skeptics or atheists, would be more transparent there, because, and maybe it's just they haven't hit a wall in life yet where they forget what it was like to have this God thing to run to when life sucked. Right. And when shit got fucked up, they forgot how easy it was to just run to the God instead of having to face it in a and when I say in a more natural form is going to a therapist and finding a psychiatrist and actually doing the hard work, the hard fucking work. And instead of doing that, just having the hope that God's going to make it all right, as they say in their music, right? That God's just going to make it all right. Unfortunately, that fucks so many people up. There are so many people that, well, obviously I'm not going to name names or anything, but there's more than one or two people that I know that are no longer here. They're no longer living with us because that hope deferred that makes the heart sick. Their hearts got so sick that they took their own lives because it was this constant, like, no, I'm hoping and I'm believing and I have faith, and I'm hoping and I'm believing and I have faith that this thing is true. And they finally just, they hit this wall where it's like, no, I've been doing this my entire life. And now what the Bible says, my heart is truly sick and I can't do this anymore. Why? Because there was never a good reason to believe the thing was ever going to happen. There was never, ever a good reason to believe that the God was going to show up. Why? Because he never showed up. He never showed up. He never proved anything. He never changed anything. Ever. So that's where on that side of it with faith that I get passionate and I do become very assertive because I know what it's done in my life. In almost all the negative ways. I know what it did in my mom's life. And one of the things that was like I mean, obviously I was already a skeptic, already an atheist, but like that, if you want to call it the knockout punch, the nail in the coffin, whatever you want to say, where it is, if there was any ever hope that Oz would ever be a believer and a God again, was watching all of the Christians in my mom's ICU room as she lay dying, and faith and faith and faith and belief and belief and belief and quoting the scriptures, where there are two or more gathered, there he is in the midst. If you ask any of these things in my name, they shall be given to you. You know, and then there's more. I won't keep going, but all of those things are proclaimed on faith because there's no good reason. There's no evidence that supports any of those things being factual. There's nothing that sustains that as a reliable outcome. There's none. And watching that and listening to that, number one, it broke my heart. It broke my fucking heart for my brother, my stepdad, you know, my Aunt Kathy, my grandma. Like it broke my heart because they're clinging on to this thing that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much praise and worship music you played. It doesn't matter how many times you put oil over the doorway. It doesn't matter how many times you're in there praying in tongues. He didn't show up. And I remember, going back to what you said, Nick, I remember sitting in the waiting room and I was by myself. And I said, okay, God, if you're out there somewhere, if you were out there somewhere, it's showtime, bro. It's showtime. The lights are on. As far as my life right now, in my mind, in my life, I'm willing to sit here and open myself up And if you can show me right now, if you can show me that you can actually do what you talk about in your Bible, that you can heal the sick, raise the dead, heal the blind, yada yada, it's go time, bro. The lights are on. The lights are on. And not only am I saying that as an atheist, there's I don't know how many people sitting in that room, on other days and in the ICU room, praying their damn hearts out, and nothing ever changed. If anything, it just got worse. And this is a woman laying in the bed dying that gave her entire fucking life, everything she did, to that God. So did he just not care, or was he inept? Was he not capable of showing up? And again, I say all that because all of that hinges on that word faith. Because here's the disgusting part to me. Mom dies. She's gone. Well, now all of a sudden, because of the faith and the belief that this God is still there and omnipresent and omnipowerful, blah, 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 all of that. Oz, that was just part of God's plan. That was just part. He works in mysterious ways, Oz, and it doesn't matter that your mom sacrificed all of those years and all of that energy and all that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because his ways are higher than ours. And I'm sorry, I can't subscribe to that. I can't subscribe to that.
As you just made a very good point there, and I can give you a good example. Seventh-day Adventists. I have studied Seventh-day Adventist doctrine theology. Remember, the guy Miller, he predicted that Jesus will return in 18 whatever. They had faith. No, Jesus in return. And so a lot of them were confused at the point in time and so on. And this guy claimed he had this vision where, Miller wasn't wrong. It's just he had the wrong place Jesus was going to return. And a number of them, through faith, accepted that. And so that's why the Seventh-day Adventist Church continue on and on today. And you see that a lot for even other Christian denominations or other Christian cults. Same sort of thinking, that faith, that hope. They come up with these mental contortions to explain what is creating the cognitive dissonance in their mind. And I've seen it too often, just as you described, seen it often in the Brycearonee church, because they believe in healing, but yet it's kind of because they will pray for somebody to, let's say, be healed of cancer. The person undergoes chemotherapy, etc., and they say, "Oh, God heal the person." Then the person dies 3 years later of the very same cancer. Then it's the mental contortion. Oh, it was God's will. God's ways are higher than ours. That's the usual excuse. The faith excuse.
Well, in the who was I just talking about this with the other day? Fuck. It was nobody on YouTube. It's actually a guy that I work with, and he found out about our YouTube channel, and he's like, now every time we work together at the end of the night when we clock out, he's asking me like 3 billion questions. But it's and he's a Christian, and I love that he's having these internal questions, and then asking me, and I keep trying to, well, no, So then ask yourself this and go research this. Like, don't worry about my opinion. Don't worry about what I think about it. I'll point you into the direction to study and research and help you learn, maybe how to be how to think, not what to think. I don't want to. I'm trying to teach you how, or I'm sorry, what to think. But he asked, as a Christian, he was like, Oz, one of the things I'm really struggling with is, I've been told over and over and over again, and he just recently lost a family member as well. And those things can, as we know, fuck your shit up, man. They can fuck all your shit up. And he was like, I'm to the point now where I watched that and we all prayed and we all believed and we all prayed and we all believed and nothing changed. Nothing ever changed. He said, I'm to the point I just want to start asking, like, all of my Christian friends that I've grown up with and my pastor and my parents, like, let's go find an area, of town, or let's go to the hospital, the children's hospital, and let's go pray. Let's go pray. Let's test God. Are the promises of this Bible true? And is he a healer? Is he all powerful? Is he all loving? And does he actually care about what we ask for and what we pray for? And I was like, bro, I'm not even going to touch that, because you're on the right line, and I'm not going to touch that. And you're asking all of the right questions internally, and the only thing I'm going to do is encourage you to continue to ask those questions. And if you need to go to that extreme for you, the children's hospitals love having people up there to come and hang out with those kids. Go do it. And keep track of how many that you do pray for, and most importantly, that way it's not just a barbaric experiment. But don't just pray, but spend time and hang out and build relationships and be a good humanist, as well. But track that, and you for yourself determine whether all of the things that you've been told and taught and preached to are any of these things reliable. And did you ever, one time, however many people you did pray for or agree with in prayer or whatever, how many of them were healed of their ailment or their disease? How many were had a life-threatening disease, and now they're on a path of recovery and they're not going to die? Like record all that. Do that for you. Do that for you. Because I think if more Christians actually did that and got outside of their comfort zone and got outside of their box and actually put a demanded evidence, put a demand on the promises of God that lie within that book. If they actually put a demand on those promises and went and practiced and did what God, I think in the New Testament it says, whatever Jesus and the 12 disciples did, you will do greater things than these. That's what the Bible says. I've not seen a single one. I'm 40 years old. I've not seen a single one. And I think if more practicing active Christians actually put demands on the promises of that book and then walked away empty-handed, after a certain point, you have to ask yourself again, what is my methodology? What do I have a good reason to believe that any of this is true, other than I want it to be true?
I think, and I don't want to step on Phil if he wanted to say something. I wanted to mention two things, Phil, just because you brought this up, and I thought that this was something that expressed the idea that you had said, and I thought you put it well. This was if God exists, it's only because the Christians allow no other interpretation. If there's a fire and dozens are injured, it will be a miracle and proof of God that no one was killed. If dozens are killed, the miracle will be that more didn't die. If nearly everyone is killed, it's a miracle that anyone survived. And if everyone dies, well, God works in mysterious ways. And it's the same. It doesn't matter how, they're all evidence for God all the time. And it's how you play tennis without the net. But to also get back to what this, I think one of the reasons, this is why I try to have as much compassion, and I've seen Oz, because you deal with people with as much compassion as you can, and I've seen you hurting when Christians are hurting because you've been through it. But too many atheists do see it as such an adversarial process, and it's like, I'm gonna beat these bad ideas out of you, and we're all brothers and sisters. We all suffer. This is their answer to that, and it's a fine answer. There's nothing wrong with the answer, except when you use that as warrant to say gay people can't kiss, or God says that you can't do this or that, and when it becomes things that other people have to do. If it's your answer for you, that's really fine in my book. But it's when you're hurting other people with it, which is the vast majority of the time. I wish it wasn't. It is. And don't have to get into that, but I think all of us know that. But there was a fable of a guy who was God's most devout follower, and he dies, and God says, "You've been so good, I will let you see heaven and hell, and you can be the first ever to choose where you go." And so he says, "Okay, great." He goes down to hell. It's this gorgeous room, banquet table, food all the way down, and everybody is sitting in front of an infinite amount of the best food you've ever had. But they have these bracers right over their arms, so they can't bend their elbows. They're stuck with their arms out like this, and they can't eat any of the food. So they're stuck there looking at all this food, none of which they can touch. So he says, "Okay, I'd like to see heaven now." Goes up to heaven. It's the exact same hallway. It's the exact same table and the exact same food and the exact same bracers on everybody's arms, so they cannot eat. But in heaven, they had learned to feed each other. And what I like about that is, whether religious aside or not, we're all in this together. And the only comfort that I've ever found that's real, that I know is real and is there, is other people. It's brothers and sisters. Sometimes they are religious. Much of the time they're not, but in either case, they love me, I love them. That's real. And that's the only comfort I've found, is when we recognize that heaven or hell is the place we make. And it's either by fighting with each other and hurting each other, or trying to feed each other in one way or another. End of speech. Sorry, I was going to let Phil talk, and then I just went on, so apologies.
No, you're right. It has to do with humanism, how you deal with people as people. And I think that's one of the things that I get very angry about, how persons deal with other people. And we have to be careful as atheists that we don't do the same thing that the Christians do, or some of the Christians do, because of their religion, and forget the human being. It's humans are all of us are in the same boat. All of us are human beings, and we need to look out for each other. And I know, because of, for the most part, because of religious thinking, because of faith, and people believing this thing is true, sometimes Christians do certain things that they gaslight, and I sometimes I think they're not even aware really of what they're doing. It's wrong, but some of them are not even really aware of what they're doing, and they think that they are promoting, they're trying to save your soul. And it's difficult. It's walking a line. There are some that definitely behave really shitty, and I know G-Man is one of those. But but for the most part, I know of Christians who are really nice, but I know sometimes because of their religion, they'll say some shitty things. Because I have had that experience where friends of mine who are Christians, I suffered a heart attack in February, double heart attack. Of course, the Christians' response because I'm trying to do stuff to get back, regain strength and so on. And a lot of things have happened at one time I will have attributed to God, some really good things and might seem like quote unquote miracles, but coincidence. They said to me once, said, "Oh, I know you don't believe, but I'll be praying. I'm praying for you." I had to point out to them, well, that's not a nice thing to say to anyone who does not believe, because it's like sort of like gaslighting, throwing this thing in their face. And I said, basically, how would you like someone to do that to you? So sometimes we have to, I know, because I do get angry with the nonsense that's being said, but I was there at a point in time, right? And sometimes I have to keep telling myself that some of these persons, you were there once, yes, some of them. And what you need to do, teach, as Oz said, not what to think necessarily, is more how to practice thinking. Because I have had conversations I teach, and mostly teachers in Barbados are Christian. And when they asked me about why, because they knew when I was a Christian, and they asked, but why have changed? And I explained to them, and then they started to use the usual apologetics. I said, but I said, but such and such is the case. If I were you, I wouldn't really use that argument, because if you can see, it's not really a good argument to use. Yeah.
I get into that argument all the time about, well, what's really the harm in false belief? In 1991, Pope John Paul II decided that he was going to convert the entire continent of Africa. It was the single most successful conversion in Catholic history. It has been it's been astonishing what they've done. Now, aside from the fact that he was able to get George Bush Sr. to withhold aid from Africa if it included anything like family planning, anything other than abstinence only, which we know does not work. We know it actually increases the number of abortions, because what happens is more people get pregnant and then they just go underground. So I mean, it's just a fact. It increases abortions when you teach abstinence. We know that, and it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter that we know condoms are the single. They birth control in general, but especially condoms, revolutionized society. At the time that he started this, Africa had the same AIDS rate as every other country in the world, roughly 2%. They now have an AIDS rate of, I think it's 64%, I want to say, and they actually I think it's 42%, but they represent 64% of all of the AIDS cases on the planet. And the reason is because it has been the single most successful conversion in the history of Catholicism, and they don't have enough food to feed themselves because of this. A child starves to death every 7 seconds, often in the hands of their converted Christian mother and father, as a result of one man who is the vicar of Christ on earth, who said that he was told by God that we shouldn't have condoms. I'm aware that it sounds silly blaming condoms for that much suffering, but it is one catechism of the Catholic Church. And so when people say, well, gee, I don't see the suffering, it's because you're programmed not to look at anything past the intent, which in most cases is pure and good. Yeah,
that's true. And I just saw something there, which I just remembered. Where I think Oz posts that be respectful, attack beliefs and ideas. I usually say that. Even in my conversations with theists, because I know when during the pandemic there was a lot of misinformation being pandered around and sent around, even in comments relating to newspaper articles here in Barbados, and they got in the conversation. I said, look, present your evidence. I got ad hominem attacks. I said, don't attack the person. You deal with the ideas. Ideas are open to criticism, but when you're dealing with people, you do not disrespect people. You can attack the idea, but always respect the person.
Well, okay, and that's important because I've seen on some, especially on some atheist YouTube channels, like a guy will come in and he's known for having, say, a $400 suit, and the host will just viciously.
What was he saying?
He said,
Yeah.
if something happened there, Nick, you need to repeat. The Dark Lord just shut you out.
Boo this man.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man.
I've been attacked without provocation. I've been muted. He's silencing the truth, folks.
Boo this man. No, but what I'll say, and we have about 20 minutes left. So what I want to say there, and we'll go a little different direction with this because it's just I have to because I love to stir the hornet's nest when it comes to this particular conversation. But before we do that thing, yes, we should have no issues, like either whether you're a theist, atheist, agnostic, skeptic, whatever the hell you call yourself. All of us should be open to ideas and beliefs being questioned and probed and broken down, right? And torn apart. Why? Because if it's a true thing, truth does not fear investigation. If it is absolutely true, you don't, and it doesn't fear me coming along as a skeptic and asking all the questions and being even ultra critical and ultra skeptical. Why? Because if it's true, that means it's true, that it's true, that it's true, and it will hold up. It will hold up under that investigation. 100%. And 100. But yeah, to what I said in the chat, I'm all about that, and I want my, and again, I'm with Nick. What Nick said, I don't at this stage, I feel like I've systematically went through the ideas of the beliefs that I held via faith, and have either deconstructed them or most of them at this point, I've thrown them away because there is no good reason to believe. So I don't hold on to anything via faith anymore. But there are still a lot of people that do. And the minute it becomes a personal attack, or like you said, Phil, there's ad hominems and the personal slurs and all that. That does not promote healthy dialogue and healthy discussion, because the one thing I try to, and there's times I failed. I am not perfect in this, and I have fucked up over and over and over and over again, and I probably will continue to do that. But I try to focus on, or keep my focus on, the fact that I used to hold this belief, right? And I used to give everything I had to this belief. So I need to, and I try to treat people and talk to people how I would have wanted to be talked to and how I would have wanted to be treated when I held that view, that worldview, that belief, whatever. And I think it's important that we do that, because again, when we can humanize all that and talk at a human level and fuck all the philosophy and fuck all that shit, and people say, well, so part of this is philosophy. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. We're not going to do all the word spaghettis and word salads and sitting here and mentally masturbate each other in a big old philosophical circle jerk. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to talk about real life and how it impacts us on a day-to-day basis. And we should be able to do that in a healthy, productive way. Now, if you come in here, I'll say this, and then I'm going to use the restroom so you guys can chat back and forth, because I'm about to fucking pop. We should be able to do that and not people not feel like they're being attacked, or someone's going after them. But I always give this what's the word I want? This warning. And so like the Isaiahs of the world, or the Dore Loves of the world, I'm just telling you right now, if any of you or people in your crew show up, they're not getting this Oz. They're gonna get the fucking asshole. They're gonna get the fucking dickhead, because you're hateful and all you do is spread hate.
You're right.
All you do is spread bigotry. All you do is promote all of the things that hurts and harms individuals. So if you show up, I probably will take everybody off the screen. I'm just gonna flex, and I'm gonna be a big old fucking atheist dick, and you can deal with it. But I'm gonna use the restroom. I'll be right back. You guys chat.
I agree with what I was saying. I was going to say that there are some people, regardless of the conversation, you're trying to have a meaningful conversation, you realize that they behave like an asshole, straight up, and regardless of the as I said, start having attacks and behave really stink towards you, and even when I was a Christian, I never behaved that way to people who are having challenging my beliefs. And I get really peeved when Christians and other persons behave that way when you're trying to have a conversation. Sometimes you have to tell them off in that way. Sometimes you have to tell them off. But you try to keep us calm, because you can't get on their skin after you're trying to have the conversation over and over, and then you realize this person is not. Or you just walk away, because some persons, you realize that now, because of they're putting up that barrier, because of their cognitive dissonance, and they're putting up this barrier and then behaving nasty. Sometimes you just have to say, all right, let me stop it here, cut here, because they're not listening. But if there are people around, if you continue to challenge them, it's not for the benefit of the person there, it's not for the benefit of those listening in to hear, and they will realize that something that this guy arguments are not holding up, but what this guy here is saying, challenging the faith arguments, really saying something, and why this guy has to behave that way if his arguments are true. So it all depends, I think, too, on the audience.
Well, and I think it takes a village, and one of the things is I have very different techniques. It's not common that I go into anti-theist mode. I'm always an anti-theist, but I'm not always on as an anti-theist, and it's rare that I go into that mode. But when I do, I like to think that I'm smart enough and clever enough that I can reach whoever I'm talking to. And the reality is, there are some people I can reach and nobody else I know can. But that's a very small number, and there's a lot more people I can't communicate with. I don't have the shared life experience, and I have a very set way in which I approach things, and that way only works for a very small number of people. And that's true in my experience for everybody. So there's only some people, there's a small set of people probably that you could really connect with and get thinking. Oz, of all the anti-theists I've met, Oz seems to be able to approach the widest audience. I've seen him and he does the street epistemology. It's like, okay, I would probably suck at that. I love it. I love watching him do it because it is a thing of beauty and a thing of art. I can't fathom I would be successful at it. Someday I'm going to go visit Oz and he's going to take me out and I'm going to take a real stab at it. But it takes all kinds. And just because you and your methodology, not you per se, but anybody and their methodology is offensive to some people, and it's going to be, somebody else's probably isn't. And so it ends up being that I think atheists have a tendency to want to Jim Kirk it, and I feel like I could deconvert anybody. It's like, you could probably deconvert people. I can't, that's for sure. But everybody, no. And not, there are people who will never deconvert no matter what. But it's like, if we approach it as a community and sort of realize that it's again, we're brothers, sisters, the whole whatever, all the.
Yeah, Nick, but it's something you just said there. In terms of, I have seen atheists who I suspect were never a Christian before or of some religion before, make claims where, this person will never believe. You will first said that about me many years ago when it was fundamentalist Christian. But I can tell you, once certain beliefs are challenged and they are making sense, you can create doubt in the back of the person's mind, right? In their subconscious, they will go there and think about it, even if they seem to be putting up resistance. Because, at the time, the cognitive dissonance is kicking in, so the defensive mechanisms go up. Right? So, but you are sowing a seed. And it's because of persons I know who challenge certain beliefs, Christian beliefs. They created that doubt in the back of my mind because I started saying, well, what they're saying is making sense. And gradually just eat away, deconstruct. Some people quick, some people like myself, it took long, but there were stages for me.
Oh, it comes in stages, and it comes in waves where sometimes you don't even realize. It's like, oh fuck, where did that come from? But Anna has a great question here, and I want us to answer this. And I want, like I said, one more thing I wanted to bring up because two things real quick before I bring up her question. Thank you for this comment, and I do want to address this. Calling people's justifications word salads is pretty antagonistic, though. It would be antagonistic if, when I use that phrasing, and maybe I should do a better job of pointing out more specifically who I'm referring to, because when I say that, I'm talking about the online YouTube Christian apologists that just love to do the word salads and the word spaghetti, and they just put a bunch of they string a bunch of words together that by the time that they go on a 30-minute monologue, and by the time they're done, you're like, what? Were we talking about a god, or are we at NASA now? Are we sitting in NASA? Like, what are we doing? This does not apply.
Can't Orvin. As you don't understand, it's like you don't really understand the Bible. The Bible says this.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, Anna asked this question, and I know Nick's probably getting fitted for his new $1,500 suit.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Okay.
But Phil, we'll start with you. Anna asked, "Are you a former theist?"
Yep, I'm a former theist. I deconverted 2016 for the most of my life, I grew up in the Destiny and Holiness Church. And most of my life before that, yeah, I was atheist. Yeah, for a
Right.
very long time. But
And
as I say, stages.
Yep.
I started moving away. Yeah, thinking.
Mr. Fitted. Oh, the jacket came out. He's serious now.
Yeah.
He's serious. Look at that, bro. Look at that.
It's actually now officially worth 50 cents, thanks to Oz. I really appreciate that one. That did wonders for my ego. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
He doesn't even. He just does. Yep, done. Oh, well. So I want to. This was an interesting one. I was a theist, and I healed people, and I couldn't heal like physical injuries. I thought maybe I could heal mild ones. It turned out I could talk to people and make them feel better. And I was utterly convinced that I was not doing this because I could actually hear in my head what I should say and do. And I just found if I sat and listened to people and just really actively listened to what they were saying, somehow answers came to me and I could feel their pain and through that find a way to ease them through things. And I got very good at this. And I was utterly convinced I actually had no skill in it. It was all God. And I was also convinced I could probably eventually heal bones. I could probably lay hands and heal bones. It just took me being pure of heart and trying to be as good a person as possible and healing people and just heal and heal and heal. And eventually I'd be able to really actually do the full and, so on and so forth. And I remember one time a woman had, her father had been diagnosed with cancer. And I remember she came and people in my high school like knew me for this. And I didn't want to freak people out, so I never said it was God. I just, but it was God in my view. And somebody said, "Okay, you're supposed to be good with people. Here's my problem." And I remember immediately alarm bells. I was just like, "There is no way I can't talk. There would be nothing I could say. I could sit and listen, but I couldn't say anything." And then that voice came in and said, "Okay, that's a lack of faith. You need to trust that God wants you to heal this woman and that you can do it and just dive in, just to treat it like you would treat anybody else. You just broke up with your boyfriend. I can help you with that. I can walk you through. You just boom." And I tried and I made things worse. I demonstrably made things worse. And I did pain. I caused pain and probably significant. And I remember just reaching for, oh, God, tell me what to do. Tell me how to help. I just want to help. What do I do? And nothing. And I was making it worse. And I remember later I was having this conversation with God. And I remember saying to myself, or that voice in my head, and was just like, listen, 20 years from now, she will remember this as you turned it around for her. She will remember this as everything you said was just so pure and important. And then I'm sitting there going, how would I ever know if that's true? How would I ever know if that really happens? I'm not going to see her ever again, probably. And that's when I started to question. I kept a journal. I just thought it was important it was just a journal. This is what I've been doing. And I started to go back through it and I saw other times when there was some evidence that I hadn't been as successful as I thought I had, but I convinced myself, and I'm seeing confirmation bias and all these fallacies. I was just like, I haven't been viewing reality in a way that I think is consistent with reality. And that was probably the lowest moment in my life, to go from somebody who God's working through you to realizing, and you'd think in some way I'd be happy because I was like, wait, Nick, it was you actually helping these people. Isn't that a good thing? But no. And I also didn't want the responsibility, which is another thing I learned about God, which is marvelous, which is you can take the responsibility for your own mistakes and place it somewhere else. I lost that too. And my deconversion started at that point, probably took about 5 years, and it was painful. I hated every second of it. I still, wish it was true, but I don't think it is. And I look at the pain that I caused, and I look at the pain that other people caused, and I do remember this, and I think about this every now and then. I remember once being so devout that I challenged God, and I said, I will do the right thing and I will be good no matter what. put me to the test. And people do this to themselves all the time. They're like, who is it? Oh yeah, it's oh my God, what's his name? But former Vice President Mike Pence. I think he really wants God to like test him, and he's like, I'm ready for it, God, just throw me the slings and arrows. He wants to be martyred for God. I didn't want to be martyred for God, but I said, I will be good no matter what. And no matter what people do to me, I will be good. And I challenge me, find a way. 5 years later, I didn't believe in God anymore. And the one thing I do remember saying was, all right, let's assume for a second there was a God. And what he said was, okay, let's see if you're good without God. Do you mean what you say about just being a good person enough that even without God, you'd still be good? And I part of me is just like, wouldn't it be great if? It's not. But that's what I talk to when I talk to a theist who's struggling with deconversion, and what does that mean about who they are? Most that I know have gone to God in their own head and said, I want to be good for its own sake. And I say, well, you may have to face whether you really mean that or not, because what if there was no God? And so it's a struggle. It's not a struggle in the way it was, but the struggle hasn't gone away, and it's been 20 years. So, but at least now, I am committed to. I am as committed as I ever was to helping people. It's just I have had to say, make sure that I start with examining myself, my own motives, and what I'm doing. And if I am as convinced as I can be that they're pure, try to help. And if I'm not, stay out of it.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And for those in the chat, or even those on the screen now, Ann and I know each other. And so she already knows my background. And she knows my brother, so I won't go through my story because that will just be redundant at this point and repetitive. But obviously, I'm a former believer, and she did have one follow-up question here. And if we can keep our answers to this brief, gentlemen, because I do want to say one more thing before we wrap up and have a little. Well, I say have a little fun with it, but I don't know. Maybe some people don't want them, but I will. Another question: are there any Christian apologists you've come across in all of your research and systematic study that you consider to be halfway decent, or be halfway decent arguments, or have halfway decent arguments? Phil, I'll let you start there.
I don't think there are any that come across that have half decent arguments, because even when you look at their philosophical arguments don't work for me, right? I deal with empirical evidence, so I have not come across any with, as far as I'm concerned, with not even halfway decent arguments. There are some that have really piss poor arguments that I've come across, but half decent, I don't say half decent, not even close to third decent argument.
Nicholas?
Nick, you're muted, Nick.
Thank you. Yeah, I switched mics. I found. Oz is sitting there going, "Don't tell him. Just let him say." And we'll say, "Nick, that was brilliant. We're so glad you had it done." But now I found a few arguments that every now and then kind of get me thinking. The first thing that I do when I do that is remind myself that I want it to be true. So to slow my roll and really take a look at what I'm hearing. It's rare that happens. That happens maybe once or twice every 3 or 4 years. And that's when I'm actively acting as an anti-theist. But in terms of in terms of the theists that I get along with, are the ones who realize that I really am an atheist. I am what I say I am, and they respect me anyway, and I respect them. And that's, I have plenty of those people, and we talk, and I hear their beliefs. I enjoy hearing their beliefs because usually it contributes to them being good people, and they let me tell my objections, and they honestly listen to that. That's as close as I come.
Yeah, yeah, I have to be brutally honest and transparent as I always try to be, and the answers at this point, no. No, there's because they all it's either each argument is either some sort of special pleading, circular argumentation, or just a God of the gaps. We don't know, we don't get it, so therefore God. Right, and those seem to be the three, logical, speed bumps or hiccups that we run into, and whether we're talking about the kalam or the tag argument or whatever, and I still can't get past the first premise and of most of these arguments, because it's like, and I listened to one or two streams about this today. Okay, you made okay. This exists because this exists. Okay, what's the argument? You're making a claim. You're claiming that you know that this thing is true. What's the argumentation? How do we walk through that? Well, because if it's, what was the one I heard today? God damn it. If there's y and y equals z divided by m to the third power divided by 4, I'm obviously I'm being a smartass now, but like that's how we prove God. And that's what, for the chat, why I see the conversation is still going. I am alluding to that when I'm talking about the word salad, is the philosophical breakdown, and A plus B plus C divided by F, therefore God. What? No. How about you just tell this all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God to show the fuck up? How about we just do that? And how about we put a demand on the promises of that book, and then guess what? We don't have to worry about philosophy, because the God that does love everything and is all powerful, can do everything, he did what he promised he was going to do, and we don't need any of those arguments anymore. That's what I'm saying by that. Is I'm not interested in all of that, because that's where people get lost, and that's where people get hung up, and it at the end of the day, it's still a claim. They're claiming that there's a supernatural God, there's a deity that none of us have ever experienced, no one can demonstrate, no one can observe or test, or yada yada yada, all of that. So let's just take it to kindergarten. Prove it. Give me the evidence. That's all I'm asking for. I don't care about all the other shit. So if word salad is a bad word or a bad phrase, I apologize. I'm not using it to be dismissive. I'm using it because it becomes so frustrating when you're talking to somebody, and their way of answering or giving non-answers is by just lining up all of these big words that are going to confuse a bunch of motherfuckers.
And it's rhetorical.
Mhm.
It's a rhetorical technique. It's actually, there's also, I mean, it's used pejoratively, and people sit there and say, oh, it's just words, and they're dismissive. But it is a straight up rhetorical technique. I used to be a fan, I'm sorry to say, of Deepak Chopra. And then somebody's like, have you actually listened to what he says? I said, yeah, it makes so much sense, man. He's on it. He knows what he's talking. He's like, no, talk to somebody who's like a physicist. When he makes a physics claim, ask a physicist if it's true. And there's a great clip of, and I by this point, I had already talked to physicists and realized, yeah, there's a great clip of, he says, he was arguing with Sam Harris. He says, I tell you this, and he used the words, it's a rhetorical technique. It's not meant as a pejorative. It's a rhetorical technique to deliberately to confuse people. He used it, and he said, and if you ask any physicist, they will tell you I'm right. There was a physicist in the audience. He came up and he said, none of the words that you used fit together in a sentence. And this was a PhD in physics, by that point I knew enough to know he was absolute. So it's also a rhetorical. It just is, and it's a rhetorical technique, and especially when atheists are shooting the shit with each other, we're more likely to use shorthand than perhaps we should or would otherwise. But yeah.
Well, in the chat, they've just ran with it, and obviously didn't understand what I was saying. It was not. I wasn't trying to be derogatory or negative. So well, I'll say it in two parts. One, I apologize if you took it that way, because it was tongue in cheek and playing around. So it wasn't even meant to be that serious. But if the second part, I'll try to be as again clear and transparent as I can be. If you believe in a God, a deity, a supernatural thing that lives in the sky or lives in the earth or lives wherever, I just want the evidence. And I won't call it word salad. I won't call it spaghetti salad. I won't call it word spaghetti. I won't call it any of that. Fuck that shit. What I want is evidence. What I want is for you to demonstrate that the God exists, so you can have all of the other stuff. I'm not really caught up on that, and I don't really care that those again being applying some humor and sarcasm. So just so I can be crystal clear on what I'm saying, I'm demanding evidence. I want evidence. I don't want you just explaining things to me. I want evidence. So anyhow, before we go, go kind of back to the top of the show, we were talking about the Apostle Paul and him creating, like I said, the original powerhouse multi-level marketing group to ever exist. That's what Paul did, and he used word faith to do it. This actually, for me, bolsters my position as a mythicist. Because again, there is no external, non-biblical, reliable evidence to believe that there was a Jesus Christ. I want to make sure that's clear. Jesus Christ. There's zero. There's none. And the only way that you can hang on to that is how? You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. Jesus is a myth.
Trying to switch my audio back out, but well, I'm not even going to get into that.
I would say, thought you was going to hit the music there just now. I have to do that.
All of a sudden, Nick doesn't want to talk about it.
I'll say this. We had this discussion before, and I think it's a useful discussion, and we'll have it again. I do think after you and I had our last discussion about it, GE wanted to talk with me about it, and I sat down and started crunching my thoughts about it. I think I officially adopt the carrier position, which is it's possible Jesus was real, but it's probably a 1 in 3 at best. So there you go.
Well, if I may say this, and this is where it does that. And again, I'm probably just going to piss off all the atheists tonight. So here we are, folks. Here we are. It kills me how many skeptics or atheists I hear come to the defense for the historical Jesus. Because what the fuck does that matter? I'm not talking about that dude. I'm talking about Jesus, the Christ, the divine, the walking on water, spitting in mud, healing blind eyes, turning water into wine, fucking like all this shit, raising Lazarus from the. I'm talking about that motherfucker. I don't give a shit about the historical Jesus, because that could have been any goddamn dude. That could have been any goddamn dude.
And Jesus, there are many Jesuses, because Jesus is just the Greek for Joshua.
That's I was
He was like, it's Greek for Joshua. I
That's
mean,
what I'm saying.
gosh.
So imagine if today somebody told you there's a guy named Josh. Actually, we know a Josh. Let's just use Dr. Josh as the example. They're like, I met this.
Somebody needs to clip this. I like where this is going.
I met this Dr. Josh. I met him in person. I shook his hand. I got to talk. He even did a Ken Hovind impersonation. Like, he's real. But what you don't understand is not only did I shake his hand, he's real. He did the impression. I watched this dude walk across the swimming pool at the hotel during the Better Conference. I watched it. I saw it. I know that it happened. You just got to believe me. You just got to believe me, man. I watched that shit happen. You can call it anecdotal if you want, but I watched that shit happen. Josh walked on water. Pool water.
Pool, yeah.
Not even salted.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't even have the buoyancy of the salt. It was pool water, man.
Yeah. Jesus.
There's no way people. Well, it was salt water. It was this, that. No, it was pool water. Like that, he should have sunk.
You can call it a miracle, but I was there. Yeah, he walked on water, but the part you keep forgetting is he was trying to swim. The first time I've ever seen someone fail to dive into the pool. Yeah, you can be impressed with the walking on water business, but if you can't even swim, give me a break.
Maybe they are just got in location wrong for Jesus walking on water. He probably was walking on the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is full of salt. I think you can free almost walk on the Dead Sea.
My point is, and obviously this is a terrible reductio ad absurdum, terrible, is because when you remove the divinity, when you remove the miraculous from the Jesus claim, he no longer matters. Why are we so worried about whether this historical person existed if the divine is not attached to this person, right? And this is where I go back to faith, which is the topic for tonight. It's only by faith that you actually believe that there's divinity attached to this Jesus character, because there's no evidence, none, zero, nada, not even a smidge of evidence to demonstrate that this Jesus, the historical Jesus dude, had any divine attributes, any good reason to believe that he performed any of these miracles. None, nada. And guess what? That we talked about faith being the word that is the door hinge for Christianity. Guess what? Jesus, the Christ, is the core, the foundation. It is what upholds everything. The life, the virgin birth, which don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother conversation. But the virgin birth, the death, the resurrection. If that motherfucker didn't exist, we're talking about, again, the divine Jesus, the whole goddamn fucking house collapses, because he is the only thing that holds that shit up. So when I hear atheists say, well, why are we wasting our time talking about that? Why would we waste energy talking? What do you mean? It's Christianity to be Christ-like as a Christian. Like that is where you hang your hat as a Christian, as a believer. You hang your hat on the life of Jesus, and if there's not that, Christianity is null and void. Why would you not focus on that?
Well, it seems to me actually to sort of take it one step further. Pat had made an argument which I thought was interesting, and I'd never really considered seriously. And I think he's got it. I think he's right, which is you can't separate out Christianity from Judaism. You cannot just say, well, New Testament and Old Testaments are irrelevant. You can say New Covenant, ergo the laws are, we hear that shit all the time. But what you can't say is that the Old Testament doesn't matter, because it is the foundation for the New Testament. And the truth is, historians already agree that Moses probably didn't exist. If Moses didn't exist, it's over as well. If Moses didn't exist, then the whole New Testament's gone. So I think that's another. I think your point is equally valid, and I credited you with this earlier too, and I think this is true, which is the oh dear Lord, I just completely. I think when I said I had to credit Oz with something, my brain was just like, shutting down. Nope, we're not going down there. Yeah, I'm sure he gets credit for something, but
your pants on fire.
We're not going to say it publicly, whatever it is. Oh dear Lord, yeah, I've spaced it. It's getting late. Sorry, my brain, but and I think it's a very good point. Anyways, there you go. I'm done.
So what Nick was saying is Jesus is a myth. You're welcome. But as we wrap up, we did have a couple questions, or I don't know if they're questions or requests. Yes, we can go to. Well, let me put it in here. We can go to the Discord. I can give it about a half hour or so. I'll put the link in there. Anybody wants to join in, have a more open dialogue there. So if you want to join in, you can. We'll be there. Just give me a couple minutes to reuse the restroom and refill my drink, and I'll jump in there. We can talk, and we can talk about faith. We can talk. I love talking about mythicism. If you
hadn't noticed,
if you can't tell, what I'm talking about. But Phil and or Nick, anything you guys have coming up? Anything that you want to tell the peoples about?
Okay. My channel is the Caribbean Skeptic Secularist. You can find on YouTube. You might see two. There's a newer one. The older one has the link to the newer one in case you go to the old one. Also, I'm having a deconvergence story on my channel next on Monday, and next week, Thursday, the 18th, I'm going to be on Neil 604, giving my deconvergent story there. Yeah.
All right. And we have to give a hold on, Nick. Don't say anything yet. We have to give a proper introduction, because this is he went and put on the suit. So this is the man in the suit, Mr. Nick, $999 atheist Da Vinci, swaggered, $1 million jacket, Nick Suter. What do we need to know about you and your channel, sir?
First of all, it is absolutely true that Oz pays me to come on the show. What he doesn't say is he pays me in introductions like that, one intro like that, and I'll be back. That's probably best intro I've ever had. Thank you, Oz. My name is Nick Suter. I have a YouTube channel. It's called In Time. We do news, politics, and culture. We do sometimes talk about atheism, but that's really not what the show's about. We try to get in behind what you see in the news, talk about where even mainstream news is not accurately reporting things. We also cover breaking news. We went live yesterday, and we're covering the raid on Mar-a-Lago on Palace Day Trump, covering that live. So I'm sure there'll be a link in the live chat, but it's In Time, youtube.com/In Time show. Jesus, I am getting tired. Come join us, check us out, and hopefully you'll learn something. It's an educational channel, so hopefully you'll come and have a good time and check us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Nick Suter, the $999 suit owner.
I'm going to have to clip that. We'll have to put that in the next show.
Oh, man. All right. And for as far as Tang gang. What we got to go on here real quick. Remember tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern time, the return of Vintage Explorer with Aunt Kathy and Apostate Ashley producing, and their first guest is this guy that lives in a murder shed. I'll just give that little teaser. And then tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern time, being comfortable with the uncomfortable, we're going to talk about authenticity. And on the 16th, we're gonna do the damn thing. I have Drew, genetically modified skeptic, joining me for another episode of What's Your Story, and that's gonna be badass. It's gonna be badass. So, Phil, Nick, thank you for the conversation. Everybody in the chat, thank you for hanging out, being with us. We're going to. I'll put it in here one more time just in case anybody missed it. I'll jump in Discord for a half hour so we can talk. I'm trying to make sure it goes through. God damn it, StreamYard, do your job. There you go. It's in the chat there, and we'd love to have you if you want to hang out and talk. But yeah, thank you everybody, and I want to say, Anna, thank you for jumping in and your questions and your comments. We value that. We appreciate the contribution and the involvement from. As Nick said, we all have to live right next to each other, and we have to talk, and we have to navigate this thing together. So we appreciate it. Now I just got to find my video. So awkward pause. Love y'all.
Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body.